I don't normally write things down when I talk, but I've been so nervous about this 7 minutes and what might happen if I go over it that I have just written a few words. It's been an amazing experience for me, like you were saying, really to go through that Ashoka process, because I think one of the things about setting up, kind of being a social entrepreneur, setting something up from scratch, is it can be quite an isolating process, and you don't really have time to reflect on your journey or really to meet other people who've done something similar in really very different fields. So it's just been so interesting for me, and I really look forward to meeting some of the people tonight. So I'm Karen Mattison, and I founded Women Like Us, which helps women on their journey back to work, and also Timewise Jobs, which, as Carol says, is the first UK jobs board focusing only on part-time flexible work. And I'm also a mum to 3 boys who are 14, 11 and 6, so it's really nice to have an evening off putting them to bed. I just want to tell you a little bit about my story and how my personal experience really led me to set up Women Like Us and now Timewise. So 10 years ago, I found myself in a situation of looking for a job, and I literally couldn't find one. But it wasn't because I didn't have skills, and it wasn't because I didn't have experience. I had a degree, and I had 15 years of experience going right through to management roles. But the reason I couldn't find a job was because I had children, and I was looking for something 3 or 4 days a week that matched the career that I'd had up till now. And I was told that to give up that search and that it couldn't be done, and so I stopped working. I was told that if I wanted to work flexibly or part-time, I needed to find a more junior role, maybe a receptionist, an administrator, and I definitely couldn't do anything that was fee-earning, nothing client-facing, and couldn't do anything which had any kind of P&L responsibility less than 5 days a week, and I definitely couldn't run anything as I'd done before. So my problem wasn't that I couldn't get the job when I got the interview. I literally couldn't find anything to apply for. There was nothing out there advertised. And I also couldn't find any role models of people who were doing it, who'd actually had a career and made it work less than 5 days a week at any kind of level of seniority. So I, on a personal level, lost some confidence and effectively lost the belief that there was a place out there for me in the world of work. Then I discovered that it wasn't just me in that situation. It wasn't just me lying awake thinking, hang on, what happened? What happened? I thought it was all going to be all right, and, you know, there's no place there now. I went freelance, and I discovered that there were so many more people in that position like me. And I met all sorts of mums at the school gates who had exactly the same experience as me, and actually, in some ways, hadn't been as lucky because they'd stopped work and they just felt like they literally didn't know how to get back on. But because I was working freelance, I also met employers. And they told me they were looking for people flexibly or part-time. They needed a bookkeeper, they needed somebody to do some marketing or to help with an event, and they didn't know where to find them. I did a bit of research, and I found there were 500,000 people in the UK who wanted to work, who had the skills to work, but the reason that they gave for not working was they couldn't find anything they could fit around their caring responsibilities. And then I started to get really annoyed, because I realised the supply was there, and the supply of the candidates was there. They were at the school gates, they were everywhere, and the demand was there, and but the jobs just weren't being advertised. And I saw what was really a market failure of the recruitment industry. And then I started to wonder why. Why is everything geared up to this world of full-time where nothing really counts unless you're there every single day at your desk 5 days a week? One of the things I found out about the recruitment industry, which I've had a very steep learning curve on over the last 7 years, is that for a recruiter, part-time means part fee. So you do the same amount of work for less money. So you're absolutely commercially incentivized, even if an employer isn't looking for somebody full-time, to push that job to being full-time. And the other thing I realised was that the whole concept of working part-time had such a negative brand. It was associated with people who were very low-skilled, unreliable, students, people who, you know, were really looking for a full-time job but couldn't find one. And I realised that only a socially driven organisation or business would be crazy enough to take something like this on. And so I set up Women Like Us, which was around supporting women and giving them the confidence to get back to work, particularly women who are much further from the job market, and then Timewise, which is all about the jobs. The other thing that I realised is that it matters. Part-time really, really matters. It matters to the mums like me and to other people who care for people who want to work, who've got the skills to work, but just need that bit of flexibility. But it also really matters to low-income families, because you can be living as a family in London with 2 parents, and one of you can be working full-time on the minimum wage, and your children will still be living below the poverty line. And so that second maternal income can be enough to lift a family out of poverty, so it really can matter so much financially. The other thing it matters in, part-time matters not just for mums, but for women in general, because the inability to find flexible work is the main reason that women leave their workplace in the 30s and 40s. And there's a lot, if you read the media and all this stuff about women on boards and why there are no women at the top, and there's lots of really intelligent people scratching their heads and wondering. And the answer is that it's because they can't find the flexibility that they need to keep going. And so in the end, they just give up. There's so much talk about quotas, but I really do believe that that will only change things for a top few people, and it's absolutely essential that we look at the pipeline of people coming through and make sure that we find ways for them not to drop out. And finally, and I think this is part of the good news in terms of growing a business, is that part-time matters to business, because businesses need diversity. There's much more understanding of how important a diverse team is for a business. They need to keep the people they've trained, and they want women to stop leaving. And also, sometimes they just need somebody really experienced, but they can't afford them. So how do they get a £40,000 person for £20,000? Well, just employ them 2.5 days. So part-time is the answer to many of these questions. And over the last few years, what we've done is we've grown Timewise Jobs, which is the UK's first ever recruitment job site, totally focused on jobs that are part-time or open to flexible working. We're doing 2 things. Number 1, we're growing the market. Because remember, I had no jobs to apply for. There was no visible part-time recruitment market. And the other thing we're doing is changing the conversation. Because remember, I had no role models. I had no one that I could look at and think, well, she's made it work. There was no sort of people visibly doing it. So in terms of growing the market over the last few years, what we've done, we've registered 30,000 candidates with Timewise Jobs now, who are experienced people who are looking for quality, flexible or part-time jobs. We've recruited for 1,500 businesses, all kinds of businesses from SMEs right through to some of the bigger brands, in all kinds of roles, because I think it's really important. This is not just for administrative roles. It's not just about finding your receptionist. It could be about somebody who's going to lead your team as well. We've got amazing fill rates and actually are starting to beat some of our competitors in other job sites in the kind of number of jobs that we fill in certain sectors like marketing and finance. And we're advertising about 2,000 jobs a year now on our website where there was nothing. So the first thing we're doing is growing the market, and the second thing I'm trying to do is to change the conversation, because finding the role models is so important. I discovered there are 650,000 people in Britain who are working in jobs earning £40,000 a year and above, working less than full-time. But you'd never know it because they're not very visible, and no one had ever really interviewed them before. So we did some research a few months ago, and we asked them why are they not being open about it? And we found that there's 2 main reasons. One is because they might have got quite precarious flexible working arrangements, and their managers didn't necessarily want them to be open about it. And you know, the kind of classic example is someone who told me that she was asked to leave her cardigan on her chair on a Wednesday so that people didn't really notice, and she didn't, not to be too open about it, because we don't want everyone asking us about it. And the other thing is they don't want to be seen as less ambitious and on the kind of mummy track. So we did some research, and now we're launching a search for the 50 leading power part-timers who are going to be launching to the national press later this month. So just to finish off, 10 years ago I was told it couldn't be done, but it is being done. And because of Timewise Jobs, there are 2,000 jobs being advertised and a place for 30,000 candidates to get them. But it's just not enough. I want to see 10,000 jobs on our site. I want to see more. I want trailblazers and change makers to help me change the conversation in UK businesses. So the mountain is high, but we can climb it. And my dream is that in 10 years' time, somebody that was like the 30-year-old me, who needs to find a flexible job for whatever reason, will be able to choose from thousands. Thanks.